Alright guys, 2023 definitely seems like an incredible year for horror video games. From Dead Space making a return, to finally getting the long-awaited sequel to Alan Wake, this year, fans of terror are definitely eating good. But it would not be a massive, incredible year for horror video games without mentioning Resident Evil. And luckily for us, in just a few short months, we're getting one of the best RE games being remade with the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake. So a bunch of new information has recently coming out about this upcoming remake classic that I want to go over with you all. From details about upcoming gameplay mechanics and some screenshots and new gameplay footage. But before we take a deep dive into Leon's mission through this nightmare, I want to take a brief moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. I got a ton of stuff in the works that I would love to share with you all. Also, if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. So yes, once again, we take control of Leon S. Kennedy, and just like Snake Plissken, we're going into hostile territory to rescue the president's daughter. And just like Snake Plissken, we need a mission briefing and details before we take on the enemy. And luckily for us, IGN of all places actually has some new information about this video game that I want to go over with you all. So they do have a video out that I kind of want to react to, and I'm gonna do it in segments. So as my first reactionary video, let me know if you guys like this type of content. But anyways, let's start by rolling the tape.
This game sort of like, you know, the original Resident Evil 4 had this kind of like early morning, you know, feel like you're waking up and like the sun's coming up in the forest and you're like, I'm not really sure. It's either that or it's like the sun's about to set. This, it's like, it's fully dark early on, and it feels night, and the forest is denser. It's just creepier. And you like, I played on PS5 with like the 3D audio headphones and everything like that, and like moving in certain directions and hearing grumbling and groans from like the corners of the forest and stuff like that, or different parts of the houses. I was like, somebody's coming up. You would just hear like, and you're like, oh no, oh no.
Okay, so I have two things to say about this. Number one, dark does not equal scary. I feel like this is something the Dead Space Remake did as well. And it's actually, I'm not very a big fan of this just because everything's dark and you have to rely on your flashlight. It feels like a lazy way to attempt to make things more frightening. However, the audio that's talked about, if it's really like that, that is extremely cool. I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again. Sound is so important for a game to fully immerse you in, especially when it comes to a horror setting. Hearing the snarls and growls of monsters is what stands out. In fact, I think is why Silent Hill has stood the test of time. The music and the sound effects in that game are incredible. But let's move on to the next interesting topic they bring up. Check this out.
I'm gonna do that again. Tiptoed up to her. She didn't turn around, and it gave me an option, kind of like sneak up behind her and just stab her in the back of the head.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Killed her. And then no one in the village like knew yet. And I was like, oh, so this means like this is a game that's already, you know, it's not super into like ammo conservation and stuff like that. But like if you have the opportunity to not engage and use all your bullets, then take it. Which means that like theoretically we could sneak by enemies later in the game.
Okay, so you can stealth now, it sounds like. And I'm not really sure how I feel about this. I basically see this just being a mediocre stealth design that was present in the Evil Within games. I wouldn't be surprised if this new mechanic is something Capcom's trying out to see if they could have it in the upcoming RE9 game. In fact, you even see parts of the gameplay where Leon crouches down and kind of sneaks around. So this probably does play a lot like it does in the Evil Within. Only time will tell. But honestly, I'm not a fan of stealth in these games. Why it does make sense that the character would try to sneak around, I know if I was personally trapped in this type of setting, I would do my best to avoid enemies as much as possible. That being said, I feel like no horror game has ever really executed this well, so I hope Capcom, if they go this route, they actually are able to pull it off. So the video does go on to talk about all sorts of like how they've expanded the game, make some of the houses bigger, some really cool stuff. I highly recommend checking out the full interview on the IGN website, or the whole video on the IGN website. However, I kind of want to move away from the video and talk about some other information that's been released that they don't really go into depth about anyways. So the game's also getting side quests, and while I'm always down for additional content in these remakes, I hope these side quests actually add real gameplay and link to the game. I hope the side quests are not just extra dialogue and collectibles, but more like missions that you could do alongside the main story. Unfortunately, from the information that's been released so far, it sounds like it's going to be very simple stuff and not very compelling. For example, the RGN article states that the side quests are basically you find a blue flyer that gives you objectives such as killing an enemy or solving a certain puzzle. So I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound like a side quest for a good single player game. It sounds like something from like World of Warcraft. I hope I'm wrong and I hope they really deliver. But if it turns out killing 10 of a certain type of enemy, then yeah, that kind of sucks. But let's talk about something way more positive. They're getting rid of the QTEs, which I think is a great decision. Quick time events are such a dated gameplay mechanic, and I'm happy to see them slowly start to die off. Sometimes just cutting out dated gameplay makes a remake so much better, and I'm definitely glad to hear that they're doing that with the QTEs. The game's also getting new enemy types. Apparently they're adding in the giant hammer guy, and honestly this definitely looks like something out of RE5. And since Capcom likes to reuse assets, it could be a hint that they're planning to remaster Resident Evil 5 at some point. We'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, I can't wait to face this new enemy in Resident Evil 4. So there's just one more quick thing I want to bring up before I wrap up the video. And that's, yes, I've seen the gameplay footage and it does look pretty action-packed, and hopefully it's a ton of fun to play just like the original. But the rain effects look really bad. It looks like a Snapchat filter. I definitely hope they improve this before the final release of the game. Overall, I'm excited about this remake. I'm not too certain about the stealth being added to the game, and the details about the side quest don't really excite me. However, they nailed it with Resident Evil 2. And while the RE3 remake was not the greatest, I still had a bunch of fun playing it. So hopefully it mimics more of the Resident Evil 2 remake than it does the Resident Evil 3 one. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I want to hear what you all think. Are you excited about the RE4 remake? Do you like what you see? Do you have a little bit of concerns like I do? Or do you want to see if you could simply stealth the game and pretend it's Metal Gear? Let me know in the comments down below. As for me, I got a ton of work to do, so I'm gonna get back to the grind, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.